Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Rob Romanowski. I'm the Director of Sales Operations with 3HTI, and leading our presentation today is industry veteran Gary Hoffman. Gary has been with PTC from 1990 or 91 until 99, was one of the top sales reps there. And then a couple years after leaving PTC, started 3HTI. And we have been a platinum level reseller for PTC. Have been in the ecosystem for 20 years. We've been in existence for 20 years. And one of the benefits that we offer to our customers is this kind of knowledge that Gary brings to the table and other people that are on staff from a sales standpoint or a technical standpoint. I mean, we have salespeople that have been with us for almost the entire time that 3HCI has been in existence, 19, 20 years. So this kind of knowledge we can share with our customers. And Gary and I were having a conversation a few weeks ago discussing that a lot of people don't really understand the new Creo packages or what's in the old packages as well. So what we're going to do today is take you through what's in the new packages and give you a better understanding of what capabilities you have in Creo. And if you need any assistance with training or understanding these capabilities, that's another area where we come in and we can help you get proficient and help you save a lot of time in getting your job done faster and getting your products modeled and parts modeled and everything else that you need to do on a daily basis, just making life a little easier for you. So without further ado, Gary, I believe you have the con.
Well, thank you very much, Rob, and thanks for everybody coming. We actually have a pretty well attended session today, so thanks to everybody, and I hope that we serve you guys and provide some great value. But as Rob said, I've been doing this, luckily I started when I was a young lad, but it will be coming up in about 9 days to 32 years, but who's counting? So anyway, just a little, kind of a background for maybe some people that have been in the whole PTC ecosystem for a while, is that what used to happen was that we used to sell perpetual licenses, and you bought the license, you hope that you got the best functionality that came with it, and ultimately as new technology came out with new releases, some of that was provided for no cost, some of that was we'll call it modularized, or we used to call them modules, now they're called extensions. And ultimately what happened was, we used to say, gee, we can sell you this a la carte, or let's come up with some great plan where you can take all your old stuff and we'll quote unquote normalize it and we'll make it new stuff. And, quite honestly, that was sort of not a great game. I think it was probably worse for the customer. And, you just had to keep buying more and more stuff as stuff came out. So in today's world, with a lot of different software, generically out in the market, ultimately what's happened is that you buy these subscriptions, which is ultimately what PTC is, a subscription company. And what occurs is that you get a chock full, bunch of functionality that, most people don't even know they have. And I think, what I've seen over the years is I have customers that date back all the way to 1990 or 92. And I think sometimes it's a little bit of a crime where, people will use the product in a certain way and they don't realize that there's all of this additional functionality that really provides benefit from, what you can do. And it also provides benefit from a optimization perspective. And I know that the people that work for me, these guys get all excited because, you bought me a new computer. And realistically, for the cost of what technology costs, it's very, very minimal in comparison to, lost productivity by people. People cost a lot of money to a company. It's really probably the biggest expenditure. So if we can make you more efficient, that's the goal, right? So ultimately, in the game of subscription, is if there's something that you don't like, if you want to downgrade it, you want to upgrade it, you have the ability to do that on a periodic basis. For our customers, which typically are the small and medium businesses, we can do that on the annual anniversary. And I think it's a great thing because it really forces us to, number one, make sure you're happy, not just sell you something that, you know, kind of collects dust on the shelf. But ultimately what we're looking to do is to, as I said, really make sure that you're getting the maximum value out of your subscription. One of the things that, you know, I had a customer a week or two ago that, you know, wanted to buy this and wanted to buy that. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Do you realize that that actually is in your subscription today? And it actually makes me feel good to do that. Like, look, you know, we told you it would be a good thing to convert to subscription and you'd get all this functionality. You know, little did you know you probably would need it. So anyway, that's kind of the basis of this. And, you know, much like, you know, we use Office 365 from Microsoft, and you get, you know, a lot of things like SharePoint and Yammer and OneDrive and Teams and all this other good stuff in there. And, you know, they kind of throw a lot of things in there, you know, including the kitchen sink. So anyhow, let me get kind of into the details here. So today, when it comes to Creo, firstly, is of the customers that we have, which are, you know, 500 or more, 81% are actually on subscription. So much to my surprise, a lot of people got rid of the old perpetual licenses. They went to subscription, and there's a lot of value that I think they're getting from that. I think what I see is people are very happy because it's just a much easier way to utilize software. The last point I would make is, you know, we don't really sell a version of software. You guys probably all know that, you know, non-PTC customers don't. We really sell these 5 different configurations. And with these 5 different configurations, you basically get different features that you either may need or may not need. The other thing that I think is really unique to PTC is the fact that there are, you know, you can basically use a T1 with a T5. You don't, if something is created in this product or in this configuration, you ultimately don't, you know, have to have it to manipulate it. So you can buy things based upon, you know, people's roles, if you would. You know, I think that's really a good thing ultimately. I think the other thing about it is that, you know, if you look at competitive software companies, if you look at, for example, Dassault, you look at Autodesk, if you look at Siemens, which are really the 3 competitors, they do not have something that you can purchase as a low-end product and ultimately scale it into a high-end product. And I think that's what makes PTC very, very unique, in the fact that we can do that. So anyway, so what we're going to do, I'm just showing you this slide. We're going to switch to Excel. But what we have here is we have 5 different product lines. And you can kind of see, you know, where these are sort of pointed. And obviously, you know, this one has all that, including the kitchen sink in it. I think it's interesting because some people do need this. And what happens is when we share this information and what comes with it, people get really excited. So let me switch over to this one. And let me ask you, Rob, can you see my screen okay? I think Rob's probably on mute.
Yes, I was on mute.
All right.
Yes, I can. I can. It could be a little bigger.
All right. Well, there you go. So anyway, guys, yeah, it's the good news is when you have a big screen, nobody else can see it. So I guess that's the bad news too. But anyway, so hang on a second here.
That's good.
All right. Just try to center it and make it look nice. So anyway, these are the, you know, if you looked at the last slide where we had T1, T2, you know, through T5, these are the actual names that we name these licenses. And, you know, this is the different stuff in it. One of the things I'm going to show you, I'm going to kind of skip to the end here. And just one caveat. I know that there are some people on the phone that are directly purchasers from PTC or direct customers. There is something that we offer some prices, like, for example, this particular product is discounted. There's some things that are pulled out of this. A lot of that is really, you know, good or bad to match the target market that we're going after. Typically with small, medium businesses, you don't always have the pockets that somebody with a bigger business actually has. The other thing you'll look at, and it's, you may not be able to see this, let me scroll over a little bit, is that these packages here actually come with the ability to be node locked as opposed to floating on a network. And so that, you know, once upon a time, we used to have that with PTC, and then everything was floating. And guess what? We have it now. So you're getting a look at what the price differential is, basically 10 times the price from the 2750 to the 26,100. So there's a pretty big delta. One of the things that I'm going to mention is that what PTC is doing, at least in the channel, we'll call it, for small and medium business, is they're starting to try to get people to use less locked extension, or excuse me, less used extensions, and ultimately try to promote the utilization of more of these. So yesterday we had a company our customer that was inactive on perpetual licenses. They really needed ISDX, Interactive Surface Design Extension, and PTC has a really attractive offer here where it's buy one, get one free. So for them, it was kind of no-brainer. So they actually purchased 10 of those. So that sort of opened up my eyes that, you know what, there are things that people find of value. I think if the price point gets reduced, then that's a big deal. What PTC is also doing with the T1 and T2 package is they're offering different extensions. And quite frankly, a lot of these extensions really aren't used that frequently. This one right here for Interactive Surface Design is something that is a fairly expensive extension. So let me just kind of get back up here. So what you have, and if anybody, you can email Rob or email me, is I actually have, this kind of goes back to the old Pro E days, the product detail. We have what Pro Feature and Pro Detail. And for this particular webinar, I actually went and updated everything to the modern lingo. So for any of you guys that still call it Pro Engineer or Pro E, then God bless you. So anyway, but one of the things you get a augmented reality design share. And what that ultimately is the ability to create these augmented reality euphorias, PTC's product experiences, where you can actually take your Creo model and actually be able to digitally overlay it, put it into digital space and be able to spin it around and actually share that with suppliers, customers, whomever you want to share it with, your wife, your boyfriend, whatever. So it's really kind of a neat thing. It's really just a teaser into what Euphoria is. And one of the things that we've seen is that right now Creo and Windchill are have very, very good growth, double-digit growth ultimately on an annual basis. And the reason being is because everybody wants to take this digital model that everybody wanted to create many years ago, and now they have the capability to take that and use that downstream in terms of manufacturing, supply chain, quality, etc. So jumping to number 2, the assembly performance extension. Way back in the day, we're talking about June of '98, PTC started to get some pressure from SolidWorks, and ultimately they stripped all the assembly capability out. Ultimately, what happened is they created this interim piece here, which ultimately would do things like shrink wrap, simplified representations, and have the ability to do bottom-up design, not top-down, not skeletons, not zones, things of that nature, not inheritance features, not copy geometry, but at least it gave it some assembly, capabilities. So there was a gap probably from about 98 to 2003. And in 2003, this comes in every product. And I'm going to skip down here to the bottom a little bit. What doesn't come in the basic package is advanced assembly extension. And just to repeat myself, there are companies that want to work on the same assembly by different people in different areas at the same time. There's things like zones. There's some basic stuff if you want to create fixtures, tooling, stuff like that, where you need to be able to copy geom and do inheritance features and things of that nature. Ultimately, what that provides for you is it provides the ability to really work from a top-down perspective and design in the assembly mode, as opposed to the basic package where you're really just bottom up. So, we certainly sell a lot of these. I think this product is very inexpensively priced. It's great for suppliers and people that want to get started. There's really nothing that you can't do in it, in my opinion, but it just may take you a lot more effort. Again, effort means that it's less efficient. It's not as good a payback for the person paying the salary. You do get advanced framework. Advanced framework, again, is something that was added to this entry-level package. That's, maybe a teaser. Certain people or certain applications are great, but ultimately what that does is when you want to take, really more structural steel, C-channel and Ls and I-beams and things like that, it gives you the ability to very quickly miter these and be able to put them together. One of the things that's been in the package for a long time that a lot of people don't use is actually welding, where you want to put weld symbols, things of that nature. So that's a thing you can do as well. I think a big thing that comes with the product is actually cabling. And, I remember when I started selling Pro Engineer version 5 and sheet metal came out in version 6, and that was a big deal and we sold it. So guess what? Every package does have sheet metal in it. Cabling was a similar phenomenon when that came out. Hey, let's sell this as a product that we can monetize. And today, cabling is included in every license of Creo. So it includes cabling, it includes piping, which should be down here somewhere. We also provide what's called schematics light. So that's the ability to create two-dimensional schematics, create a list of wires for a limited capability. There's a more sophisticated version of this, but ultimately we allow people to do that. And I think beyond there is actually harness manufacturing light. So the ability to create a pegboard or nail board to be able to lay out the cables and piping, things of that nature. So depending on what you want to do or what you do, I think that's a big deal. Another piece that I kind of think about is ECAD, and ECAD is the ability to do a IDF type of interface to be able to import circuit boards to be able to package those. Flexible modeling is a big one. That's something that was really derived from the Co-Create acquisition. And flexible modeling is the ability to take geometry from any CAD system, which would be in this Creo Unite, pull that in. So let's say it's SolidWorks or NX or whatever it would be, pull that in and actually modify the geometry geometrically as opposed to parametrically. It allows you to put parameters on different type of features and modify features individually, but it does not give you a full feature tree. But nonetheless, I think when you get into parametric modeling, you can ultimately build a house of cards if you don't know what you're doing. And this gives you the ability to change imported geometry, and it gives you the ability to make last minute design changes when sometimes the feature trees become very, very cumbersome. Freestyle, I'm actually an industrial designer by trade. I think freestyle is pretty neat. This also came via the Co-Create acquisition. And ultimately what that is the ability to take subdivisional surface modeling. So to kind of take a blob and just sort of manipulate it, and away you go. Really some pretty interesting stuff. I don't think really it's widely used, but depending on if you're looking to create organic geometry, really good stuff. Creo Render Studio, this is one that sort of has me a little confused. And I say I'm confused. PTC's had a lot of different shots at rendering over the years. They've had some what I would call second-rate packages. They've had a lot of false starts. But ultimately what this is Keyshot. And I say what I'm confused about is 3HTI does sell Keyshot. We do sell this capability to maybe SolidWorks customers. We sell a lot of higher ended capabilities for things like animation, et cetera, et cetera. It's a big deal, but this is basically a full-blown Keyshot license that would normally cost you $1,000, and it's incorporated right here in Creo, which I think is pretty dandy. Creo Unite, we talked about. Detail is ultimately the ability, and this goes back to the 1990, if you would, is the ability to go back and create your orthographically projected and detailed drawings. So pretty simple. Design animation, something you don't see a lot of, but whereas you can actually animate and display, for visual representation, things that move, which I think is really neat. Design exploration, we had a gentleman that worked for us years ago that was involved with PTC all the way back to '89 when this came out, which again is something that sort of came with the advent of Creo. Ultimately, is the ability to create a lot of what ifs. So if you want to create, in industrial design, you come up with a concept, you come up with something that's similar but a little bit different, really, really wild stuff that you can create. He thought this was the best thing that was ever put into Creo. So again, really neat stuff. It's where you want to do a lot of what if and come up with a lot of different, I'm keep using the word what if, but you want to have a lot of variance in terms of, what if it looked this way, or what if this option were on it? It's a way to do it very, very quickly, but it's a way to maintain the original design intent to the original model. We talked about ECAD. Feature, this goes back all the way to 1990. Feature is interesting because really this was what created the more advanced features to Pro Engineer. And the more advanced features would be things like drafts, rounds, and shells. And as many of you guys know that, PTC is really lights out when it comes to variable sweep radii, rounds, things of that nature. We already hit harness manufacturing. You have Pro Interface, and it's interesting because back in the day, we used to sell, well, this is different. So this is basically your IGES, your DXF, STEP, things of that nature, various versions of STEP, 214, 203, etc. What's interesting is some vendors, I know with CATIA, a lot of times they're charging extra money for this. And you can see the subcomponents here where you can actually interface to CATIA, good old CADS 5, computer vision. I don't think there's a lot of that out there, as well as STEP. Import Data Doctor has been around for a while, and that has the ability to take a 2D drawing and ultimately turn it into 3D. It also has the ability to take a 3D model and to parameterize that model. Frankly, I haven't seen, it kind of goes with this legacy data migration. I haven't seen a tremendous amount of this actually get used, but lo and behold, it's there and it comes with a package. Intelligent Fastener Lite, I think is interesting. This is actually from a third party called B&W, not BMW, out of Munich. But ultimately, this is the ability, if you want to place fasteners in a model or an assembly very, very quickly, this is the capability to do it. This is, I think, is a great add-on to the product. Library access is something way back in the day we used to charge for, and we used to charge for mechanical libraries or electrical libraries, but this is the kind of your library card for that. Mannequin is, I'll say it's anthropomorphic models, to use a fancy word. So you want to see human factors models, you want to analyze what happens as far as the human factors models. That's what that does. Mechanism design is the ability to create articulating parts and to actually go through range of motion. I think compared to other packages, if that's something you need to do, when I say other packages, meaning other competitive packages, really neat stuff. Model check was something that was actually purchased from Rand Corporation a million years ago. I know in the world of CATIA, they sell a similar product that came from Rand that cost big cash. Companies like Airbus demand that people purchase this, but ultimately it's called Q Checker. But anyway, what Model Check does, it comes again as part of the product. And what it does is that you create certain standards that people have to adhere to as far as ways that they create features, as far as how they create feature trees, et cetera. You can set this up, we can set it up for you. And this basically makes people adhere to certain modeling standards. Really, I don't see that it's a very widely used thing. I think it's actually a really good thing. And we're implementing this now for several customers because what we're finding is they really had nobody that was really making sure that they modeled uniformly. And if you guys have been in the Creo world for a while, what you'll know is, different people can create the same model differently, and some people can build that model like a house of cards. And I think this can be set up and really enforce that. Again, it comes with it. Mold analysis light is ultimately the ability to test a Newtonian fluid, aka water, and gate a part and be able to see what just some generic flow would be for a plastic molded part. Piping we talked about. Plot is it was the one I started to say earlier. The ability to actually, we used to sell, for $1,000 is what ProPlot used to cost, by the way, in 1990. And it actually had like Pro CalComp, which doesn't exist, Pro Versatech, Pro HPGL. That'll jog your memory. But anyway, it's basically something to create prints. SolidWorks collaboration, there are other collaboration products. Ultimately, what this does, it allows us to export a step-like direct SolidWorks format, non-feature tree out to SolidWorks, as well as bring in the SolidWorks data. Actually, guys, I think this Render Studio is I think it's duplicative, so I apologize for that. But that's the Creo Render Studio. Pro Report is ultimately something that has the ability to go and create, when you see the bill of materials and the exploded view models with the balloons, that's ultimately Pro Report. It's a little bit antiquated today. We use things like Creo Illustrate. Scan Tools is the ability to bring in scan data. So you have your X, Y, and Z data that comes in from a point cloud, and ultimately has the ability to bring that data in and then be able to drive curves through there. We do have more comprehensive tools today, like reverse engineering extension, which is ultimately Geomagic. But if you want something simple and you're messing around with scan data, that's your thing. Talked about Schematics Lite. We also, briefly talked about sheet metal, but it's the ability to create, fold and unfold, roll and unroll sheet metal parts, put things like notches and various other reliefs to actually create sheet metal. Again, that was something that was once upon a time charged for. Advanced surface extension. And I think, ultimately what PTC has, right, you have Pro Feature, we talked about that, but Advanced Surface Extension gives you the capability of creating lofted surfaces that are produced more mechanically or mathematically, if you would. This is different. In addition to, we briefly touched on interactive surface design extension, which is found in this product over here, or this configuration over here. That's much more of a free form industrial design, like push and pull type surfacing, as opposed to more of a traditional where you're laying out splines and you're running, thin surfaces through there. We hit welding real quick. Let me just skip to the bottom here. One of the things that you get with subscription is you actually get an e-learning subscription. And let me just give you a caveat. This product ultimately is sort of being phased out. So what is in there is a little bit dated. This is the old e-learning that we used to charge about $700 a year for. And ultimately, this is where people can go through self-paced classes and, kind of learn the product. And then what it also does is it gives you context-sensitive searching to be able to go through it and find, hey, I want to make an advanced surface. I want to learn how to run a spline through an imported point cloud data. How do I do that? It can take you to those particular exercises that are online, that are self-paced. Today, really what we're offering is a thing called Creo Learn, as well as Windchill Learn and others, which are unlimited live instructor, 3-hour sessions, set of training classes that you can take an unlimited and ultimately get a certification. So again, this is sort of being phased out a little bit, but lo and behold, it's there. And then finally, as far as the base license, you get actually a home use license. So the reason that this is in parentheses, if you buy a node lock license, you get 1. And if you buy a floating license, you get 2. And this is a not exactly the same configuration that you're used to having, but something that's similar. And the notion is, if you're disconnected, let's say on an airplane, ultimately you're trying to do something where we used to have license borrowing. A lot of this kind of takes its place, but you don't have to VPN in, as many of us had to do with COVID. And then ultimately what's happening is that, you can also go and, let's say you want to learn e-learning, you can use that license as well. So anyway, just to kind of wrap these guys, we already hit this, but if you do look to add a new license now, you can ultimately get these components for no charge. The GD&T Advisor, you can create GD&T drawings today. However, this advisor is something that actually walks you through the best practice to make sure that the GD&T that you're creating is something that's done properly. So this is a big deal. It's kind of GD&T with training wheels, but it's something that people are starting to do more frequently, especially with model-based definition. Tool design option ultimately is for creation of cavity and core for molds. And then complete machining. So PTC really offers 4 different machining options. One is prismatics that actually does come with this license here, which is just milling, and it's up to 3-axis simultaneous and 4th and 5th axis positioning. You would ultimately go to, I don't know where it would be, you would go to the next level, which the next level is production machining right here. And production machining ultimately would have the ability to go in and do 3-axis simultaneously, 4th and 5th axis positioning, but it also would give you the ability to do wire EDM as well as turning. And then really the next level, which you can get here, or it's featured in this product here, is complete machining. And ultimately, complete machining has 5-axis simultaneous milling and the turning and the wire as well. So we talked a little bit about ISDX. There's Creo Simulate Live. Creo Simulate Live ultimately is an ANSYS product that allows you to instantaneously get analysis results as you're designing a product. So it ultimately helps you guide that. We have a client now that we're doing a pretty significant analysis for them, which is something that our company does. And what we're finding is that they want the results to match what they need. Unfortunately, the product's already been designed, and now they got to go back and redesign it when it's in production. That's never a pleasant place to be. And I think, much like a spell checker, as you're going along, if you can get some type of idea of the function of the product from a simulation perspective, it's very, very helpful. And then, right here, we have mechanism dynamics option, which ultimately gives you the ability to create the range of motion, but allows you to transfer from the dynamics, the stresses into would be Creo Simulate analysis. So just as an FYI, the current promo here is if you buy one of these licenses, then you get one of these for no extra charge. You don't get all these, you just pick one and away you go. We kind of hit a lot of this stuff here. And just again, by the way, any of this stuff is available a la carte. If you want it a la carte, then you can purchase it on a one-off. Behavioral modeling is pretty neat. Behavioral modeling is something that ultimately gives you the ability to, let's say, choose a volume that you want to arrive to in your modeling. And ultimately what happens is it will go through and it will do multiple passes, so to speak, from a geometric perspective to keep changing the geometry to have it fixed to the result that you're trying to drive to. Not a widely used thing. What I've seen over the years, it's really neat if you have the application for it. Additive manufacturing ultimately is where you create lattices for manufacturing. And you can see kind of here, there's different levels. There's standard and there's plus. Expert mold base are the DME Hasco type of mold bases that you actually have that would go around your tool. Layout is pretty neat. This is really something that comes from Co-Create, but it's something where you can actually start with a 2D layout. When I worked at DuPont as a designer, we would design printers and everything started from a 2D layout. I think with the advent of Creo and parametric feature-based modeling, it kind of went away. And this is really a pretty neat thing to allow people to do that. Mold machining is really the 4th type of machining, which allows you to remove high volumes of material very quickly. Tolerance analysis, I think a lot of people are probably familiar with this. It's ultimately tolerance stack up. And the ability to analyze that. We talked about tool design being the mold. I'm trying to think here, guys. I think we kind of hit mostly everything that I can see. A couple things here that we've sold that are pretty neat is options modeler, similar to design exploration extension. But ultimately what happens, so that's an interesting thing. But last but not least is we have topology optimization. And this was something that came via the Frustrum acquisition from PTC. It's something ultimately that runs in the cloud. But when I went to design school, the notion was it's form follows function. And unfortunately, the way we design is we typically do function first, and then ultimately we do form first, and then we test in this example, hey, is it going to actually perform in the function? What this does, it allows you to basically give it the function and comes and does some really, really interesting, and I think a lot of people have seen it, wild geometry that comes as a resultant to actually meet the function. With today's 3D printing and additive manufacturing and other technologies, then ultimately, this makes geometry that's not very prismatic. It's something that we can actually manufacture. So I think that's it, Rob. That was a lot of stuff in a short period of time. So I don't know if we have any questions, if I went too fast or what, but why don't we open it up for some questions?
Yeah, that was extremely efficient. Very fast and extremely efficient. I think one of the questions I'd like to ask is, with the GD&T advisor.
Yep.
I know you reviewed it. I think maybe we should get in, if you could, the importance of it and how it helps to overall create a better model.
Yeah, so we have guys, we have a customer / partner, kind of a famous company called Mitutoyo. And yeah, they make calipers, which I own a set, but they also make coordinate measuring machines. And, the big thing today is really closing the loop. And closing the loop really comes to you have the as designed and you have the as manufactured part. And what they're trying to do is that you really need to specify the GD&T up front. So ultimately, as quality gets involved, which many times is where the as manufactured part comes in, that you have those tolerances in line with the geometric dimensioning and tolerancing. The problem that I see, and not to get too deep on this, there's a lot of lack of education on this. And when we typically help people do this, a lot of times we have to get a third-party company. I know the guys from Mitutoyo actually took classes at Purdue University, which weren't all that great from what I understand. There's nothing wrong with Purdue, but we have graduates on our staff, so I better be careful. But ultimately, they just don't know how to do it. And so you sort of need to know the fundamentals of it, like anything. So ultimately, what GD&T Advisor does, if you are somewhat lacking on the fundamentals, I'm not saying completely lacking, then it will basically guide you through how to properly put those on the part. So later on downstream, that those particular dimensions or that thing will ultimately come and will work when it goes through a CMM or scanner or whatever it would be to be measured. So anyway, there's a big push. I think when you have model-based definition, it's starting to become a bigger push. And what's been going on for a long time is everything should be based upon the model or off of the model. So hopefully that helps, Rob.
Absolutely. We do have a couple of questions in the queue. E-learning PTC University, now new configuration is so confusing. Help files are not very context sensitive and typically end up on forums to find the right page or examples. Does PTC, or how are they going to improve this?
Yeah, that's a tough question. And I guess, guys, I guess when you get older, you kind of lose your filter. And, I'm kind of a no BS guy to begin with. But the net is, I think this used to go for about $725 per year. So if you're spending, $2,700 a year and you're getting this for free, you kind of get what you pay for. But the reality is that PTC, I guess let me not sugarcoat it. This is somewhat competitive with Creo Learn that we sell for $1,200 per user per year. And I think the fact is that this has gone away. So I, to be fair about it too, there's a lot of things that may have not been that marketable or that sellable. So PTC's kind of thrown them into the package. And, I think that e-learning was a good proposition for a long time. But the reality is PTC's decision is to kind of let it die and fade away. And I think, unfortunately, what it sounds like is you're starting to see some evidence of that, where they're really not maintaining it. And it really is not what it used to be. And I think the simple answer is there really is no intent to maintain that product or to continue to add or fix it. And I think what's going to happen is over time, it's going to continue to become, more obsolete. So again, what's PTC really looking for? They're looking for people to go to Creo Learn Online. What I've seen, at least with our clients, is that that product has been unbelievable in terms of helping people, because you have the live instruction. And, not saying everybody, but many people don't have the discipline to go through these exercises on a self-paced basis. I know we have people that we put through training, and you check on them and they don't go through it. So that's really what the Creo live or Creo Learn Online does, is it's the live instruction, and there's a whole host of things. So it's a long answer, but I think the simple answer is that I think what you get, it's going to only continue to get worse. It's not going to be improved. What's next, Rob?
I think that's it for the questions. Good stuff.
So guys, I said, sorry to kind of run over. There's a lot of detail here is the reality. There's a lot of stuff in Creo. As I said, if you guys would like us to give you a copy of the spreadsheet, we certainly can. What's interesting here, and some of this again is old nomenclature. What was in assembly performance extension, provides a user with this. So it's a little bit of a cheat sheet, I guess, if you would. But if you guys want the book with the definitions, we'd be happy to get that to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we'll be sending out a recording of this webinar either today or tomorrow, so you can look at it at your leisure. We'll have this up on our YouTube page. So I want to thank everybody for coming on today. Gary, I want to thank you for your experience and detailing all these Creo packages. Obviously, it was very helpful and very informative. And like you said, we get calls from customers asking for capabilities within Creo, and they already have it and they just don't know it. So anything we can do to help educate you about Creo, we're happy to do. So if you have any questions, feel free to respond to the email that was sent out to you. If you respond to that, it comes directly to me, and we'd be more than happy to help you. Thanks, everybody, and enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Take care, everyone.